Good afternoon. We are here with Athletic Director Yu at the Women Leaders in College Sports Convention. Our guests today, we have Adrianne Swinney, who is the Chief Operating Officer for the University of Connecticut, as well as Danette Leighton, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for the Pac-12. So thank you all for both being here with us.
Thank you for having us.
Our focus today is going to be priority management and really how you all prioritize your priorities. So I really want to kick it off by asking, what are your methods when it comes to priority management? And really, what does that look like from how you prioritize, whether it's your day, your month, your week, your year, whatever it might be? How do you prioritize those responsibilities?
You want me to take this one first?
Start out.
Well, I like to start with, I look at it departmentally first, and our entire department, I make everybody build business plans for the year based on our objectives and our goals. I think the one thing with external units is we're a very diverse team, so everybody does things that are very different from each other. Some have very specific metrics towards revenue generation, some have things that are marketing related and very subjective. So trying to make sure that everybody has a business plan that they can follow and then departmentally put that together with obviously timelines allows the whole team to be prioritized, but then that allows me individually, based on kind of where each of the people that work with me and our team looks, that's how I start my prioritization for the year.
Yeah. And I would say for me, from a philosophical standpoint, I start with self-prioritization. So I have to be able to manage myself before I could ever manage our team or our organization's priorities. So it starts with me. And then for me, people are a priority. So in managing our people and helping them to grow and develop, best positions me to understand our organizational identity, which is the vision, the values, and the priorities of the organization, which truly drives decision making. And so that helps with the who, you know, who we are and why we do what we do. And then that when I'm trying to determine the what decision are we going to make or what's going to be most important or what priority is going to trump, those things kind of frame how I go about, you know, managing priorities on a day-to-day basis. In a practical sense, an administrative assistant who sits down with me goes over my calendar for the week, you know, the next few weeks, the months ahead, what's important, what meeting do we need to move back. I have a team of people that I sit with each week to say, here's what we need to get done in order for all of our priorities to be managed appropriately. So it's people, it's timelines, it's governing entities, it could be legislative things that govern it, it could be organizational priorities that govern what we're doing. So a lot of times I feel like priorities can manage themselves when you have a proper view of your organizational strategy, business plans, and things of that nature. It kind of helps things to fall into as much of a place as they possibly can.
Okay. So I appreciate both of you sharing a little bit about the priority management specific to your organization. And one of the things that you touched on that I thought was very good was prioritizing for yourself, right? So are you able to, in the chaos that you work in, able to prioritize some time for yourself, and what do you fill that time for yourself with?
I feel like I'm learning and getting better at it. Been in this business for almost 19 years now, and you still learn every year how to be better at things like that. I think that's one of the things that we often neglect. For me this year, that has meant sometimes getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go work out. If I have an 8 o'clock meeting, working out is important to me, and I'm finding that when I do it, I feel better. I tackle my day from a better place. And so for me, having 2 or 3 hours in the morning, because that's the only part of my day that I can actually control, regardless of what's on my calendar, I spend time in the morning, you know, to be able to go to the gym and work out, come back, you know, have devotions, focus on myself spiritually, and get to a place of mental clarity and just breathing and enjoying life before I go into a hectic day. So I try to steal that time before my day begins.
I would love to say that I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and work out. I wish I could say that. That doesn't happen in my life. I think for me, I think when you get to certain positions, you realize you spend a lot of time with people, and people are the most important part in what I do on a daily basis. So, you know, one-on-one relationships that I have one-on-one meetings on a regular basis with each member of the team. We have team, obviously, staff meetings together as a whole. But for me personally, I've really learned how to carve up my day in a way that can be for the people, for the specific tasks that I need to accomplish, whether it be a contract that we need to have negotiated for an upcoming championship event. And then obviously I need some time just for myself to do some work. So I have definitely gotten into a habit, courtesy of a fantastic administrative assistant as well, that I literally block out at least an hour of my day with nothing. I try to stay true to that hour to be able to make sure that that's an opportunity for me to handle anything that kind of are surprises. But I think that for the most part, I think it's really, really important to know your team and help your team with what they need to do in order to be successful. And so I think I spend most of my time with people, which is what I love about my job.
Yeah. And I think that's another great point about prioritizing the time with the team that you have to be more successful, more strategic, and more effective. So when it comes to assigning priorities to individual members of your team, can you talk a little bit about, both of you talk a little bit about how you assign priorities to individuals, who you pick, and really how you identify the importance?
Yeah, I think one thing I love about the team that I get to work with is I have a wide range of responsibilities, but also a wide range of experience. So I have vice presidents to coordinators, and I really believe in situational leadership. And so it really is dependent on the project. So each individual, there are certain levels of people that need prioritization for me, and others that just say, get out of my way, and they have full autonomy to do what they need to do. So I really look at it from a situational perspective, both from an experience standpoint, but also the project at hand, and really want to make sure that the people that work with me know that no question is a dumb question, and I would much rather them come talk to me about they have too much on their plate, we need to figure out how to get something done. And so we've gotten in some different exercises really based on the person of what works best for them after I kind of get to know them and realize what's gonna make them most successful. I always kind of kid around about the business plans that everybody builds. They are all over the board as far as what they look like. When you have a vice president of operations, it's gonna look like an operations manual. When it's somebody who is working in your data analytics team, it's obviously on an Excel spreadsheet. Then from a marketing VP, it's gonna look like a beautiful keynote presentation. So from my perspective, it's whatever works for them. But we all know what our common goals are, and we all know what we have to do together as a unit. But I do think situational leadership is really critical, as well as emotional intelligence overall. Truly understanding and knowing who your people are and adapting your style to them as best possible, I think is also an imperative component to leading.
I would definitely have to agree with Danette. The situational leadership aspect of it is critically important. I think the self-awareness of who your team is critically important. The one thing that I would add is I always look at it from a transformational leadership standpoint. And so in choosing individuals, I've taken time to sit with our staff and to say, like, hey, what are your goals professionally? What are your goals personally? And I look for those opportunities and those priorities that are going to help them grow and develop into who it is they want to be and where it is they want to be in their career. And so I look for opportunities that are going to transform them, that is going to stretch them, that is going to challenge them to work towards becoming who they say they want to be or develop into. And I understand fully that if I make that investment, we're going to achieve things as an organization because we're investing in their growth and development. They're going to invest back in the organization's goals and priorities. And so I really look for, all of them are important. Who has the capacity, who has the skills and the ability, who's ready, who has a balance of priorities. So like, who am I not overloading by giving them this opportunity? And so you try to look at all of those things to figure out who's best. And as Danette mentioned, I have people I can give them something, they can take it and run with it, and I'm not worried about it. Then I have others who need coaching and mentoring, but you give them those priorities that will allow for that type of one-on-one with them to help them grow and to develop. And so our self-awareness of our staff and their capabilities helps us to delegate and help keep us sane. Because if we don't, then we become overwhelmed and we're trying to do everything. And that can be difficult when you're managing a large organization.
Yeah, one of the earlier sessions they did talk about how the whole is greater than, when it's all together than the individual components of it. So I think that's a great, example of how that is true on your staff. So when it comes to assigning those priorities, when it comes to providing those opportunities for your team and for other staff members on your in your departments, what are some of the methods maybe that you communicate how their success will be measured?
Honestly, I think it's clear and concise as you can be on what that's going to look like. It helps everybody. I'm a firm believer in objective goals. I'm a firm believer in objective measurement of goals. If I'm sitting with a coach and we're looking at the year ahead, we want to be able to mutually agree about where we should finish as a program. If that's third in the conference, there's not a lot of confusion about we finished 6th and our goal was to finish 3rd. I mean, that's as clear as it, can get. Now you have to be able to analyze, did things happen that make finishing 3rd impossible? What were those challenges? Are those things that I can help you with? Was it just a failure of execution? So whether it's a coach or one of our internal units, it's mapping out, like, what is it? We want to increase ticket sales by 15%. We know what 15% looks like. I think the more objective that you can be with people about how they will be measured, the better off you are. And I think the more you communicate throughout the process of where they are and how they're falling short and what those challenges are, it makes that measurement process even more clear for them. And hopefully they feel supported in knowing, I know where you are, you know where you are, we know what the challenges are. Let's continue to work to try to get to accomplishing what we set out to accomplish.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to that is I think it's imperative to build goals together. I think the worst things you can do as a leader is to give somebody a goal. I think that they have to have ownership in what that looks like. And I think, through our units, because of the diversity of it, it's really easy for me with the ticket sales team because we know we have to hit a certain revenue goal, maybe for a championship. It's not so easy when we're trying to evaluate a marketing campaign and whether or not it was successful or not. So I think when you can establish those and have them really have a say in it, and then you may have to push them a little bit further if you think that the goal should be a little bit stronger. But I think that collaboration on the front end is really critical because the buy-in is much stronger, and then it's a much easier conversation, both good and bad. If you've met your goals, if you didn't meet your goals, how we can move forward and learn from that at the same time.
So it sounds like, based on a little bit of what you both shared, is both of you have a leadership style that is adaptive to your team to make sure that you set them up for success, but at the same time there's expectations that are communicated, and there's different processes depending on the department where they know that they have to step up, and these are the measurements that they have to meet in order to be successful to add to the strategy of the entire program. So shifting a little bit, Danette, I want to ask you, as the Chief Marketing Officer for the conference, how do you determine when to amplify the conference versus amplifying a specific school, the student athlete, a specific sport, or whatever it might be?
Sure. Well, I think that we have a natural cadence throughout our kind of academic year when we know we have those moments of when we really want to aggregate and really elevate the conference. A lot of those can be around kind of our major tentpole championships, our kickoff at our football media day, just some key times that are happening throughout, I think, all of us in college athletics that are opportunities for us to really tell a story about the Pac-12. We also see these in different phases for us. We love going into an Olympic year. The Pac-12 has a ridiculous success in Olympic sports. So when we are about to go into an Olympic year like we are in Tokyo, it's a great opportunity for us to elevate our women's sports, our Olympic sport programs who've dominated national championships, who really have been kind of the feeding system to the Olympic movement. So for us, it's a huge opportunity for us to take advantage of that. But then I think we are really opportunistic in amplifying individual opportunities with our institutions and programs. And so when we see something that is happening at Oregon or happening at UCLA, we want to really make sure that we're amplifying that, because that ultimately helps the Pac-12 brand overall and reminds everybody that these 12 institutions are a part of this conference. So I think it's a combination of what are your kind of your steady times and your tentpole events in which you realize you're going to have kind of the eyes on you, and when you want to really aggregate those opportunities. And then we're always looking for those little nuggets of information. When we see something, for us as an example, when you start to see the different teams being made for the Team USA, when all of a sudden we see that 8 softball players came from the Pac-12 to be on the softball Team USA, then that is something that's really exciting for us to help amplify that sport and really make sure we tell the story for all of our softball programs or whatever that may be. So we're always looking for that. Going into a women's basketball season, we see, we obviously have had some great success over the last few years. We've got some really phenomenal programs coming in. So of course we want to see, we really want to shine a light on our women's basketball program. So again, we're very opportunistic based on what is kind of at the time, but at the same time we're also very planned when we know that there are very specific times in kind of our calendar that we need to make sure that we pound our chests a little bit and tell a positive story in a humble way, of course.
Very good, very good. Adrianne, when it comes to being the Chief Operating Officer, so now turning the role to you, how do you prioritize when something is an executive decision that you can make, or when is it urgent enough that you need to take it to somebody, whether it's a commissioner or somebody in a higher authority?
Yeah, so it's very interesting walking into my role. I did not have a relationship with David Benedict, so I didn't really know him. And so I was prepared to walk into this role, say I need to build trust for about a year to get to a point where I can make, those types of executive decisions. And David's like, no, I hired you, I trust you, I need you to run day-to-day operations. I need you to make decisions if it's not going to land in the president's office, if it's not going to land in the Hartford Current, I need you to have confidence to make those decisions. And if we make mistakes, we'll correct them. But in order for us to succeed, I need you to be able to make those decisions. And so I typically make decisions based on filtering what is it that David would want us to do in this situation, what's going to be best for our department, what aligns with our goals, with our priorities, with our values, our resources, and is this something that he would want to be involved in, or is this something that he would want me to say, hey, this is what I decided, here's why I decided it. And so you do have to balance what's urgent, what's important to him. And I learned some of the things that I thought may have been urgent. He's like, that's important, you can take care of it. And so I continue to make decisions, based on where it's going to take our organization, who is it going to impact, and I pull him in or our chief of staff in, and he may pull in the president or, the board if he feels that's necessary. I just try to give him as much information as possible when it is one of those decisions that's, urgent or it needs his executive attention in order for us to make, that type of a decision. And so, hiring and firing, he's always going to be involved in that conversation of a coach or, maybe not of a marketing person, or maybe not of, we have an intern that's not working out. He doesn't want to be involved in that, but some of our high-level staff or our executive staff, those types of decisions, or, multi-million-dollar contracts, or of course he's going to be involved in that. But he made it pretty clear, I expect you to make those important decisions on important things, and I trust you to be able to do it. So that was a learning experience for me.
And to that point, right, we're looking at a lot of the stuff that you are going to put forward. Some of it is coming from even below you, from a standpoint of the people that are on your team, under you, or in the athletic department. So can you talk a little bit, and I'd actually like both of you to talk about this aspect of your prioritization when it comes to hiring personnel, or at least having input when it comes to hiring personnel.
I'm a firm believer you're only ever going to be as good as your people and your team. And so I think any decision to hire personnel from position A to Z in your organization is important. And I think you have to show a degree of attention to that, even for your staff, just to say, like, I don't want to make your decision for you. I want to be a resource and be available. If you're trying to attract or retain or recruit a person to our institution, I want to be a part of that so they understand that position is important to me as an executive on the executive team. I want them to be able to ask questions of executive leadership that perhaps you couldn't answer, that maybe there are things that they want to know about the vision or where we see the program going. And so I personally have been fortunate to work for people where hiring is one of our top priorities, and spending time with the people that we are hiring is something we have to be able to give attention to. I might not be able to give an hour, but 15 minutes with the candidate to allow them to ask questions and share a little bit about our vision is important. It's important for both our team, and it's important for the people that we're hiring. So it's always important to take time to try to meet with as many people as possible. It's a large organization. It's not always possible. Sometimes the calendar doesn't work out, but you want people to know, like, we care about who we're hiring, and we want to have a great team, and every person on our staff is a part of that team and is a part of our success. So you give attention to it.
Yeah, I think for me it's more about, I look at it more as far as the qualities that I'm looking at in hiring people. And a lot of people, for me, it's been the technical side of doing a job is important. But if I'm going to make a decision about, a lot of times I will take a less technically skilled human over a person that exudes the values and the principles of our organization and really believes in our purpose and our mission. And I think that's something also in higher education that I think is really innate in us, because we believe that we're also a place to develop people. And I think naturally we have a lot of opportunity to have develop people that are coming straight out of school. So I'm fortunate enough to have a wide range on our team. And I really love creating the opportunity to have synergy in diversity and complementary skill sets. But it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is going to be the best technical hire for that given position. There might have been somebody way better than that person, but they were the right human for the greater good of the team to make us stronger as a unit. And so I think it's really important to be involved in hiring. And I know I haven't batted 1,000 in hiring, and I think you get better every time you experience it, you learn more. But I think really the human is the most important component for me in hiring, because I think that when those values and principles are aligned and they have the same type of attributes that the rest of the team has, the technical skills can be taught.
I think looking at both of those, I can fully agree with what you shared, Adrianne, about the message that's communicated when executive leadership's involved, because I think it does communicate a different message when you have everybody from the top down saying that this is an important position in our department. And then to exactly what you said, Danette, about even with the fit, right, the culture. They may be really skilled, but if they're not a fit for what you're trying to do and the values that you all instill within your staff, within your student athletes, within all your partners, whoever it might be, having that fit is crucial. So.
And even to Danette's point, I think it's important when you're involved as executive leadership, sometimes you need to challenge your team on who they want to hire. And you may need to ask the question, why do you want that person? How does that align with our values? You have a diverse candidate pool. Why aren't you picking? You have qualified individuals. Why aren't you picking of your diverse talent? Or so it sometimes gives you an opportunity to challenge your hiring authorities to say like, hey, what are our priorities as an institution, and how can you help, support that? And it's not that you make the decision for them, but you want to challenge them to help us get better as an organization and to keep those things in mind. So those points about, values and fit and who we say we are, because if we're truly going to change diversity and inclusion in our organization, sometimes it is making a choice to hire the person that's not most qualified. Because you can teach people skills, you can't always teach character, you can't teach integrity, you can't teach work ethic, some of those things that are innate for us to be successful. So I truly value what, Danette said, that's important. And we have to challenge our hiring staff on that sometimes, because they may make the comfortable, decision. Sometimes we have to nudge them.
Little nudge isn't bad. Little nudge isn't bad. Okay, so as I'm sitting here, I just feel like y'all have this under expertise. Everything I heard, and I know you said it's a learning experience, so I'm sure you've had plenty yourself. So even looking at that and talking about that aspect, has there ever been a time, or thinking back to maybe a time where you did feel overwhelmed, that maybe your priorities weren't quite in alignment where you would have liked them to be? And maybe sharing how you were able to navigate that in a way that could be helpful for others that may be listening. Because I know that there are times that we all feel like maybe we're drowning in our work and everything is urgent, everything is a priority. So how do you navigate that space when those expectations are laid out there and you're constantly having to strive to complete those tasks or meet those expectations?
Yeah, I think for me, I've definitely been overwhelmed. I think my struggle throughout my life has been the balance between my profession, being a mother, being a wife, and all the things that are important to me in my personal life. I think, I try to tell this all the time. I went through I think most women go through this, especially in this industry, where your career is your identity for a very long time. And you have to get over a place that your job is not your identity. That you have a fantastic career, but you also have all these other pieces of you that make you happy. And for me, being a fantastic mother to my daughter was incredibly important to me. She's almost 16 years old, so it's very scary to think that. But I think where I've had my overwhelming moments was trying to figure out what that balance is. And never wanting to not give everything that I had at my work, because I always wanted to prove myself. I could always do everything, but at the same time realizing when I wasn't being as present as I needed to be for her or for my husband. So I think it's always been more about that balance, has been probably where I've had my overwhelming times, and I have not mastered that. I think I've definitely learned some tricks and some tactics throughout my life to try to figure out how to be better at that. But I think fortunately within kind of the workload, I think that through time you do get better and better at managing yourself and priorities. And I actually kind of giggle. You think you did a lot before you became a mom, and then you realize after you become a mom, you seem to be able to do a lot more in a lot less time. So I think you just naturally, as you kind of progress, get better at it. But I have yet to figure out the silver bullet. I just think it's more important to be open and vulnerable, that it's real. And I think I talk to a lot of women who are contemplating wanting to have kids in this industry, and they go, I don't know how to do it, I shouldn't. And I said, no, you need to have children if that's what you really want, and you will figure it out. And there's never a good time. And I think that a lot of women are afraid to have those conversations. And so I think it's better to be vulnerable, to say, this isn't easy necessarily, but you need to do what makes you happy. And I think that's something that I think as female executives is very important for us to know, that you have a place that's safe for both fathers and mothers, or people who may choose to never have children. And I think for me, that was my battle of when I might be feeling overwhelmed. It's definitely been more of the overall balance in life.
I definitely have to put a stamp of approval on what Danette just said, because I think we all struggle to find that work-life balance. I'm single without kids, and I still struggle. So I can't even imagine the struggle of a person. You're married, you have children, you're trying to get to your children's recitals. I don't have those things, and I still feel a tug between just having a sense of balance or a rhythm that's healthy for life. And so I think we have to learn, and in some instances we feel like we do have to constantly prove ourselves. We have to be almost superhuman to succeed in our roles and carry the torch for other women so that they can have those opportunities. But then I think we also do have to be vulnerable and transparent that we're human beings. There's only so much we can do in a given day. We prioritize and manage what we can accomplish in that day, and you have to learn to walk away from it and come back the next day and start to tackle it again. Because in my career, which I started as an athletic trainer, it was always the long hours. It was always staying long until the job was done, and I carry that right over into administration. And you're in the office till 10 and 11 o'clock at night, and you're back at it, the next morning. And I can come in at 10 o'clock and still work a 12-hour day or a 13-hour day. And so you have to learn to check yourself. I'm fortunate that I work with a team of executive assistants now. They will tell me, Adrianne, go home. Or like, you only have one meeting today. You should take that meeting from home. Why are you here? That's been beneficial to me, to have people who work with me, who support me in trying to find, that balance and trying to manage those priorities, because there are going to be days where they know we have to tackle it and get after it. I may have 8 meetings. When they see a moment in my calendar and they're like, here's your day, here's your moment. Take some time for yourself, leave early. So you have to have people in the workplace that champion you and hold you accountable in that regard. And I'm very fortunate at UConn to have, individuals who do that for me in the office. And you have to learn to do it for yourself. You have to learn to go home. You have to learn to take time for yourself to enjoy a movie or dinner or spend time with family. You have to learn to choose yourself. And that's why I say this year, the self-care piece, I am not a morning person. So for me to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go work out, that's a huge feat, but it's important to me. And so that's something that I'm choosing to do, just to have a better, balance in life and better sense of self-care. When I get into the office, I manage my priorities so much better because I'm in a better place. And I think if we can model that for people, that take it one at a time. All of these urgent priorities and things didn't come about overnight. They're not all going to be solved overnight. Take them as they come and put them in the order of importance and make decisions and decide. Delegate to other individuals who have the capacity to help you manage some of these things and get either decisions done or to execute the decisions that you were putting forward, and control what you can control, and then get up and do it again the next day. And I think that's probably the most valuable lesson that I'm continuing to learn, is that Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to fix it in a day. It wasn't broken in a day. Do what you can and get up and try it again the next day.
I love it. So thinking through some of the, nuggets that I pulled away from this, I love what you all talked about, how prioritization is a work in progress, right? So you're getting better at it all the time. And one of the key things that I think you both just hit on at the end is the prioritization of your self-care, and your self-priorities, the balance of the family or yourself with work. So learning that component, and then also really how you prioritize with your team and how that can make you so much more effective when you really set those expectations and you hire for your culture, and your team knows what is to be done and how it's to be done. So clearly, as much as you all feel like it's a work in progress, I think you all are doing a phenomenal job. And we very much appreciate the time that you spent today to share these nuggets of information that hopefully others were able to take away with them today. So thank you.
Thanks you.